Welcome back to Investing and Trading Live, sponsored by Trade Academy. I am your host, Josh Lilquist. In the last segment, we covered a couple topics on the markets, or a compare and contrast between stocks and other assets, or basically different types of vehicles. Stocks and futures, there's different contracts you can get into: oil, gold, silver, lean hogs, corn, soybeans. But also, the great thing about that is it's actually roughly, I think it's the same thing as stocks. It's just a different vehicle. You can do the stock market, which is the S&P 500 in the futures market. You can do the NASDAQ, the Dow, the Russell. So it's just the same thing, just a different way to get to wherever you want to get to. It's just using a different vehicle.
Yeah, it's using a different vehicle, a different way, but with some additional benefits.
Correct. The less capital requirement.
Right, the leverage.
You can use leverage, which means you can use less capital with these other assets. But also, I don't think we did mention there are 24-hour markets, futures to forex. So I think it allows more flexibility, which is what we talked about at the beginning of that segment. That's what people are looking for, is flexibility and more control of their time. That's exactly what that will do for you. So if you want to learn more about that, we can show you the different techniques and concepts in these investing classes that we do right here at the Academy and in a neighborhood near you. We're doing a campaign all across the metro area: Maple Grove, Wayzata, Edina, Woodbury, just different areas for just helping people get a little bit closer to their financial goals. And you got to get started to learning the basics on what the market is, for one, and how are the strategies beneficial potentially for you. Simply just text the word investing to the number 210-210 right now for 2 seats. That's text investing to the number 210, 2 seats. That's one for you and one for a friend. Text investing to 210-210. Also, subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. That's Investing and Trading Live, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. So, Al, on this next segment here, I do want to kind of continue that discussion about using the leveraged assets or using the right vehicle, but in different types of accounts, because we have a lot of listeners that are preparing for retirement, thinking about retirement, or maybe it's a retirement goal at one point, and they're like, I have no clue how I'm going to do that because they don't have enough. But there's also a lot of people listening that have plenty for retirement, but they want to protect what they have. And it's also using the correct vehicle to do whatever that you're looking to do for that. If you're short, how do you speed that up? If you have enough, how do you protect that? If you're looking to leave a legacy and do it more passive, what are the strategies for that? And there are other assets rather than just buying stocks or mutual funds for that as well. So why don't you talk about those other assets?
What we're talking about, we have been talking about options, futures, forex, and stock, but the leverage assets are income-producing vehicles. When you go into retirement, you're still going to need income. You still have the cost of living. Living is not free, as we continually say. So how do you cover that? How do you make up for the lack of income when your job income is gone? Well, you can still use these income strategies in your wealth account, in your retirement accounts. And I think there's a couple of things that people need to understand. You mentioned protection. If you have a 401k, maybe your 401k has done really well over the last few years, and you're sitting on a $1 million or $2 million and you're feeling pretty good, you want to make sure that the assets you have in your retirement account aren't the ones that are going to be exposed 100% to a full drawdown, whether it's a correction or a bear market. The last thing you want to have happen when you go into retirement, the year you go into retirement, the year after you retire, is for the market to take a big chunk of what you worked so hard away from.
Yeah, that would be devastating for people.
Yeah, and it happened in the year 2000, happened in the year 2007. Probably happened to a lot of people in 2020. But protection is huge. And we talk about this all the time. You have to learn how to manage risk before you actually can learn how to make any money. When you go into retirement, that risk management part becomes really critical. But here's the other thing that people, I think, forget about. Maybe you have done well and you've got $1 million in your portfolio. And you're thinking, when I retire, I've got this $1 million now I can rely on. Well, remember, you are in a partnership. And the bad thing is that you're the limited partner. Somebody else is the general partner of that partnership. That's the government. Mm-hmm. Who controls how much taxes you're going to pay? When you retire, the money that comes out of a 401k, a 403b, or a traditional IRA is subject 100% to income tax. And that income tax, the amount of that tax is controlled by the government. You don't control that. Your $1 million may be hit by 40 to 50% in taxes when you retire. So look at maybe only having half of that. So that's something you need to understand. And maybe now is a good time to kind of boost the returns you have and also make sure that not only are you protected, but when you do retire, even if part of that money has gone to taxes, you still have the opportunity to generate income off of the markets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the great thing about the markets is you choose what happens in the market. You don't get to choose what you pay for tax because you're going to pay it no matter what.
Correct.
So you're losing a lot of the capital that you actually have. So if you have $1 million, consider that much, much less, depending on what type of account it's in right now. So we can illustrate these different strategies and techniques to have more opportunities at retirement time in these investing classes. Simply just text investing to the number 210 for 2 seats for this free class. So Al, with those other, so you mentioned a great comment there with when you retire, you still need income because it's not free to live.
Sure.
Your job has stopped, so that income has stopped. But why? I mean, you've been working with a lot of people. I think especially lately, I know you've been commenting about that. With a lot of people that are in their, we'll say, 50s, they're starting to think about when they want to retire, or even their 60s, or that's when they start to think about it, which hopefully it's earlier than that. But the reality is people don't think of it till it's almost late. But if the people that you've been working with that are looking to build an income strategy now, why is that so important to build that now rather than waiting until you retire?
Well, one thing is the value of money. Every dollar you earn now is worth more than it will be in the future. And the sooner you learn how to generate income, the sooner you can start putting some money away for retirement, the sooner you can maybe start to enjoy some of the things in your life. But learning the income strategies now will allow you, when you go into retirement, to continue using those income strategies to make sure instead of just drawing down a retirement account, you know how to generate additional income. So maybe you let that retirement account grow. Maybe you have a legacy, something that you want to leave for your family or for your church or whatever you want to do with it. But if you're just drawing money out of it every time you need to pay bills or maybe take a trip somewhere, that pile pretty soon dwindles down. So what we want to teach our students, and this is what gives them the confidence to know that maybe they have a much better chance of making it through, it could be 20, 30, 40 years in retirement, is knowing how to always be able to have the markets provide that source of income. You know, and the other thing that people need to take into consideration is that things change when you go into retirement. Maybe you have a plan that you put together based on certain conditions or certain situations. You don't control those situations. You know, at some point in time, you may have a big financial hit. Maybe something happens to your home. Maybe something happens to your health or your spouse's health, or maybe one of your kids or your parents. So if you can't control all of those things, to really ideally make it through retirement comfortably, you have to know how to be able to do something that maybe gives you the opportunity to have additional income over what your original plan is providing for you.
Yeah, and it really takes sometimes just doing different things, and sometimes that's the first hardest step is doing something that you haven't done before, especially with the markets, because it's so easy to just wait till later, and that's kind of the common excuse that people make to themselves. Really, is I'll get at it when things slow down, and you know things slow down on my end, and maybe I'm not working, I'm retired. Well, it's a little late for that, in my opinion. It's not too late, but in my opinion, it might be a little bit better to start earlier. So don't let that excuse to yourself hurt your future. And hopefully we can inspire you to not only just do things differently, but sometimes think differently. And it's really being around different types of people that have done different things as well. We have instructors that are professional instructors that have been in the markets for sometimes 20, 30 years as floor traders on the New York Stock Exchange, Chicago Mercantile Exchange, the Chicago Board of Options, the Singapore Exchange. I mean, there's different exchanges out there that we have instructors that train our students, and it's not only what they're doing, but things that they've seen. And that way you can always prepare for the future rather than just let the future come to you and say, I wish I would have done something different. So these investing classes that we do every single week, matter of fact, we probably have 3 or 4 of these per week just because we've had so many people coming in. is it really breaks down how the markets work, what the opportunities are, what stocks are, futures, forex, options, the different vehicles, how are they driven, what are they driven for, whether it's an income strategy or a retirement strategy. And we go through all that in these investing classes that a lot of people have been coming to this, especially the past for many years now, but especially lately, because I think the markets are showing so many opportunities. To come into one of these classes, just text the word investing to the number 210, and that's for 2 seats, one for you and a friend. Text investing to the number 210. Also subscribe to the podcast if you did miss part of the show, just by going to Investing and Trading Live wherever you listen to podcasts. Coming up next, we have more topics on how the markets work, but also how to make smarter investing decisions on your own time. This is Josh and Al, Investing and Trading Live. We'll be right back.